Actually, I've never had. So listen, though, I've never had a pad for that. I'm very anti pad when it comes to charger because like you can't do anything. You have to set it on there and just leave it there. Like that's annoying. Like I can't even work my phone without it. Like I gotta pick it back up and then it's done charging, then set it back. That's annoying. And for somebody that's always on their phone like me, bro, that's why I got that what do you call it? That extra battery pack. Life hack, bro. Get that battery pack, man. Not the one on the back. I don't like the magnetic one, bro. That one don't charge. I'm talking about the little juice pack and then get like the little small charger. Put the
Mm.
small charger in it, bro, so it just stay connected to your phone. You ain't got too much going on. Yeah, I got that thing on me, bro.
I'll
It
tell
be
you
working
what, that's
too.
how you
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Modeling Empower Narratives podcast, where we work towards mastering empathetic navigation. I am your co-host, Jordan Flowers.
I'm Jacob Hale.
And I'm Trey Mosley.
And before we get into today's episode, make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, share your favorite podcast.
Right.
On YouTube. Show some love, man. We need it in terms of creating this content. Keep pushing these things out so we can get a bigger audience. But we got a nice size audience so far, but we want to keep expanding on our empire right now. So make sure to keep sharing our podcast and what we're doing and kind of our mission and everything. It kind of helps us with keep moving forward, right? Hell, what you think about that, man? How you think the numbers look? Would you say?
Oh man, it's going well. It's going very well. And the piggyback off of what you're saying is you never know who needs to hear this, some of the stuff you say, if you know who we are, you know how we are, you know how we talk, but there's other people who've never seen this before. So they'll hear something like this and it can be very refreshing. It can be that wake up call, that aha moment for them. So, definitely like, share, don't be afraid to pull someone aside like, oh, hey, you should check this out. Think it'll really help you out for what's going on with you.
Yeah, it's beneficial. It could be like you say, it could be beneficial for a lot of people. And I think even that episode I just got done recording about what it's meant, just talking about our overall mission. I think that is a good episode if you want to know what we're kind of about in our little mission and some of our goals with just creating this podcast. So make sure, like I said, subscribe, like, comment, all those things. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Now we're on YouTube as well. TikTok. Yeah. So we'll have all of it. So we'll have that link in the description box on our YouTube channel and everything. So make sure to run that up. But before we get into today's episode as well, I want to give a shout out to our partner, Mark Kicks. My boy Marcus, get at him for all of your exclusive needs for sneakers and pre-orders and future drops. The website link and contact information for shoe purchases are below in this video's description. For my sneaker heads out there, it's about to be December, so we got some nice drops. I'm finally, when I say I'm waiting till December, Trey. I'm telling you,
I'm not doing it.
We gotta wait till December, bro, to cop another pair of sneakers, bro. Stay strong.
I'm not giving in, bro. No shoe November. That's what it is.
No shoe November, bro. So in December, we're gonna run it up a little bit. But welcome back to my boy Trey. He was absent in that last episode. What you up to, man? What you up to, Mr. Overnight? Was he overnight and he a golfer?
Yeah.
Part-time golfer.
Part-time overnight. Nah, I mean, I've just been chilling, bro. Been working out, golfing. While it was nice, for some reason it was 70 degrees in November. So that was cool. I've just been looking into a lot of different new jobs, trying to get a job at WashU. And life's great, man. Just been chilling.
We manifesting that. We gonna manifest
it. We need it. I need the support from all the supporters, man.
Absolutely. And also, before we move into anything further, I want to give some prayers out to our boy BJ. And kind of the things, I won't go too much in detail what he's going through with an injury, but we want to pray for him and his family and just a full strength of recovery, full and fast as needed. But we want to make sure that my boy is in our prayers as far as that surgery stuff. We all have been through surgery. Dang, all four of us now. Mm-hmm. So we all been under the needle now. So we know that what that's like, and we just want to send out prayers to him and a speedy and full recovery. But with that being said, I know BJ is going to see this. We love you, BJ. Can't wait to have you back. But with that being said, I want to move into today's episode, which is protecting your peace, man. I was looking forward to this. I was looking forward to our whole season. But protecting your peace, your boy is big on peace over here, right? So this is something that I've been looking to get into as far as the episode. But I want to start defining things and start off by defining things. So with peace, it's a noun that means freedom from disturbance or a feeling of tranquility, right? So the key word in this definition for me is the word freedom. When we possess the ability to not be confined by something, there's this sort of feeling of being like liberated, right? Or not bound or confined to something or like a confined space. So that leads me into my first question for you guys is staying on the topic of freedom. Can you talk about a situation, a person, a habit, or anything for that matter that you struggle with breaking away from? And can you speak to why it was so hard to gain your freedom from this thing or person? And I'll start with you, Hale. What is something you struggle with breaking away from for a long time?
It didn't really hit me too much until after college. And thankfully, I had a wonderful college experience. I don't regret anything that happened. It was a lot of fun. It was a great time. Obviously, injuries and stuff, that was unfortunate, but it was great. And one thing I've realized with not being in college and being out on my own and kind of reinventing myself to a degree is that there's a lot of things that I did because I had FOMO, and I felt like that was just a big thing that I needed to get rid of at some point. It's that there's always going to be another party concept. Every Saturday it just felt like, oh, I might miss something big. I'm going to have to, I need to go out. I need to do something. I can't just stay in the house all week. So it's interesting looking back at it now that there's just so many times where it wasn't even like I necessarily wanted to go out, but it was the fear that something really fun or something really cool was going to happen while I was out. So I had to go out. But as you would guess, most of the time, it's pretty straightforward. All parties are pretty much the same, at a certain point, so
Absolutely.
I would say definitely FOMO. FOMO was definitely something I had to eventually get over to progress and move on and start doing other things.
So that begs the question before I get to Trey. What you speaking about FOMO, because that is a big one that we gotta kind of struggle with, especially as we're not old, but we ain't that young either. We ain't 17, 18-year-olds when we was like freshmen in college, you know what I'm saying? We could kind of party all night. Sometimes, bro, like stand up till like 2, 3 in the morning, bro. Like that's a no-go for me sometimes, man. I gotta be in the bed. Like it take a little bit for me I'm old, bro. Now, yeah, I'm old now, bro. So like, but what you speaking to also with that FOMO is like, bro, at some point, like with the 23, 24 range, bro, you kind of get not sick of it, but like we didn't been to every single event there probably is to be to. Like, you know what I'm saying? We probably missed a couple things, but like you said, in essence, it's the same thing, right? It's the same people doing the same thing, which it can be fun. Let me not lie and sit here like we not old. Like we want to still have fun.
Right.
I don't want to say that, bro. We still young, bro. Still be young. But sometimes it is okay to miss that stuff. Like we don't have to be out every weekend like we was. We don't have to be drinking and partying and doing whatever. It's the same thing, right? We're seeing the same people doing the same thing. So I'll go to you, Trey. What is something that you struggle with breaking away from, or something that was hard for you to gain freedom from in the last couple of years or last couple of months?
I think the biggest thing for me was just understanding that you don't always have to make everybody like you. You don't always have to try to please everybody else over yourself. And I think that was something I struggled with in college. I was always somebody who like just wanted everybody to be all right because I knew how hard it was being away from home. And I wanted to be somebody who was there for everybody. And I came to the realization that you really can't be there for everybody all the time because it's so tiring. It's so like it just wears you out, always trying to be there for everybody and not worrying about yourself. It's like our episode today is protecting your peace. Like I was giving up my peace trying to please other people. And it wasn't like I was trying to please them. It was just trying to make them feel good and make sure they was all right, where I wasn't even checking in on myself.
Right. No, we're going to get into that because that is what we call boundaries. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on this episode. But that is important, bro, because and I've and we all have this to a degree, including BJ. I don't want to speak to him. He gonna probably beat me up when he hear this. Don't beat me up, bro. I love you. But we all kind of got like that we're very giving type of people, right? We're people that love to give, love to be loved, and like, you know, almost to a certain degree more than I and in terms of our friendship, we're like the leaders in terms of wanting to give and being in front of people and wanting to help. So that is a huge thing, no Trey, because man, I fell victim to that in college for like the last, I want to say the first 3 or 4 years, bro. Like I was always giving, 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 giving. And it just goes to show you that you can't pour from an empty cup, right? I'm over here. I love to give, and that's okay to give, but I had nothing to give to myself. And even if I wanted to give, I can't give something I don't have because I felt so drained. So I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about boundaries. But I do want to pan back to you, Hell. What did you want to say in terms of elaborating on this subject?
Well, for both of you, I'd say for me and Jordan, when we were in college, I do want to touch on what you were just saying is that that was a really great quality that you had. And it was great that you were able to do that, especially since we were roommates. And
He said
I
he
just
was
remember there was no, I mean, honestly, he was a great person to go talk to. He always wanted to hear what was going on. And him graduating in psychology, there's always a perspective that he would have that would be something that most people just wouldn't think about, you know? So I was definitely blessed with that, of course. And to add on to that is that at the point where Jordan started to have his own struggles and things going on with his life,
Right.
I did feel good at the fact that I was able to give back to a degree
Oh,
that I
God.
felt like I could do what I could to help him out, make him feel good, be that person there to be the fly on the wall for him to vent when he needed to. And the thing I would say to both of you guys, and I was that to a certain degree too, but probably way less than between the two of you. You guys are like on a whole different level in a good way, you know?
Right.
The one thing I would say is you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be liked, and there's nothing wrong with doing good things to help people, but just understand that you can't hold the world's problems in your hand. And that's
Right.
really what it comes down to is that everyone has their own limit, even you. So as much as you feel good with trying to help people, you also, again, with boundaries, you need to get at that point where it's like, okay, I don't want to take too much. I don't want to do too much to where I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. Because that's really where people get in trouble, when they start feeling overwhelmed with other people's problems. So that would be my personal advice to you guys, is that it's not like what you're doing is wrong. Just be very strict with what's going to be your limit. And then from there, don't be afraid to outsource, you know, don't be afraid to be like, I would love to help you, but I think you should try this. I feel like this person can help you as well. You know, don't be afraid to outsource as well.
Yeah, and that's important, especially when you're going through things, and like you said, everybody's kind of got their own struggle. You know what I'm saying? To a certain degree, some a little bit more than others, but we understand that how people deal with certain things, you know, it impacts them in certain ways to a certain extent, even if we're not able to see it, right? Something that might be small to me might mean everything to Trey. It might mean everything to Hell. Now, you even know, I mean, we joke as boys, like sometimes y'all know I'm very dramatic. So like something like that will happen to me. Like I'm gonna take that and times about 100 sometimes, and it's like the end of the world. Y'all know how I am. Like, oh my God, the sky is falling. So but to me, that just was like you know what I'm saying? That was like the end all be all, because sometimes you can't see past whatever you're going through in a moment. And I do want to get into that about boundaries, but anything else that you want to comment on, Hell, in terms of like freedom, or any initial thoughts when we're talking about protecting your peace, or questions?
Um, I think, you know what, I'll save it because I do have my own questions that I want to throw out there, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, you know, and
Right.
do anything like that.
But and I think also too, when we talk about peace, and then I think Trey can talk about this as well, is that we're all searching for peace, right? We're all searching for a lot of these things to protect our heart and kind of the things that we're going through, and we're trying to compartmentalize all these things. But at the same time, we got to be willing to be and give peace rather than just one piece, right? Because sometimes, you know, what we do is always want, and we're not giving it. So can you talk to that, Trey? or elaborate on that point?
Yeah, I would definitely say that like there is a fine balance between wanting peace and then still giving that peace, because you can't be somebody who destroys everybody else's life and then expect people to just always cater to you, always say like, hey, like, do you need anything? Do you want anything? Like always trying to put your peace before theirs when you're not even giving them peace back. So you can't expect something from someone if you're not giving it.
Absolutely. Anything with that, Hill?
Well, actually, yeah, that actually moves on. I actually have a question for both of you. Is that what would you say are some of the biggest obstacles in finding inner peace? So I'll answer it first, and then we can pan to Jordan,
Right.
and I'll see what you think. But I think some of the biggest obstacles in finding inner peace is, surprisingly, I think it's probably going to be someone that's close to you, whether those are friends, whether those are families. It's like we said before. It's not that they're necessarily bad people. I don't think everyone is just a bad person or a bad influence, even though sometimes it can be. But sometimes it can be as simple as you have a close relative or you have a close friend that just has a lot of issues, and then you want to be there for them, but at the same time, those issues tend to blur and the to you, that will eventually make you feel a certain way. So I feel like when it comes to trying to find your inner peace, people need to bring that into question. How are the people around you? Are the people around you helping you find your inner peace?
Right.
Are the people around you part of the problem? And that's a real question you need to bring up. Now, if they are part of the problem, that doesn't mean get rid of them. Some instances, I do believe you should get rid of them, but that's something that you would have to decide on your own. I can't tell you something like that. But it could be as simple as, this person has a lot of issues. I either need to outsource or I might even need to distance myself, not in a hating way, but in a loving way. Give them a little bit of space, a lot of issues that they need to settle on their own that they need to go with. The most important thing is that finding your inner peace is custom and tailored to you. So
Right.
someone else's inner peace may not be your inner peace. Someone could have a great time and be happy, but you doing the same things they're doing would not give you peace at all. So that's just something that you have to keep in mind. And then panning it on to Jordan, what would you say are some of the biggest obstacles with finding inner peace?
Oh man, this hits right close to homes for me. The biggest obstacle when I was going through my self-growth journey, and obviously it's a ongoing thing for me, right? This is a lifelong journey that we go on when we talk about our lives. We always gotta be able to maintain it and keep those tools sharp, right? But the biggest obstacle for me was just the forgiveness aspect, right? And the resentments that I held towards people. That was hard. Not even just, friends, family, all the things, whether it was warranted or not, whether if I justified it or not, I had a lot of, and hell, we've talked about this as well. I had a lot of misplaced anger. Like I was angry, when we talked about projection a couple episodes ago, right? A couple episodes ago. And I had a lot of anger, but I didn't know where it was coming from. Like, I mean, I wanted everybody at some point, but I wanted everybody to have it. I was kind of seeking for somebody to kind of take me off so I can just get mad and release this energy that I had built up, but I didn't understand where it was coming from. And it was a lot of unresolved things within myself that I think I hadn't really been able to identify at the time until I started to look within, started to look in the mirror and started to go to a therapist and lean on my friends to see what is actually the root cause of my problem. Not like the manifestation, like these small things, but like the actual root cause of my anger. Where is it coming from? And it was a lot of baggage that I was holding on. It was a lot of things that I was carrying in my big old backpack and carrying it through the world. And it was a lot of resentments and hatred that I had towards a lot of people, whether, like I said, whether it was justified or not, I had it and I was carrying that baggage, expecting peace. But how can I be at peace with myself and how can I be at peace with the world if I have hatred towards other people, if I have dislike towards everybody, if I dislike myself, not even just other people, if I dislike myself. So for some of the things that I've done, so that was the biggest obstacle for me.
And I would definitely say, jumping on with you, Jordan, like I definitely feel where you're coming from, where the self growth and like understanding why you were always mad. Cause I was in the same state you were, as in college, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't stay healthy, why I was always hurt. It was always something. I felt like I did everything I needed to. I always worked out. I was always one of the last people off the field, always wanting extra work and all this other stuff. But then my results weren't getting there just because I couldn't maintain health. Like I couldn't stay healthy at all. I was every season, it was always something. I was hurt. And that was just so frustrating to me. And I think what really helped me out is that I realized that like, you can't control if you're being hurt. Like you can't control getting hurt. And like me being angry at myself because I couldn't stay healthy was only helping the problem. It wasn't really freeing me. It wasn't doing anything good for me. It was just making me evil and spiteful towards other people because I was like, why are they healthy? Why are they still okay? And I do more than them. I try harder than them, but you can't do that. You can't compare yourself to everybody else. You can't want something that other people have. You have to want something that you have or that you want because it's your goals and your ambitions.
Absolutely.
And then going along with what Hale was saying, like jumping on the knowing your friends and like your friends being your peace. I think having a good circle around you is vital to finding your inner peace. And I feel like when I was angry, like always, like for instance, I lived with BJ and Jared every single day. I seen them every single day, talked to them. First person I talked to when I woke up, last person I was talking to when I was asleep. And I think their good energy that I was always around and their like uplifting spirits was what helped me get out of my spiteful tendencies and what helped me like not be as mad that I was hurt and not be upset about being hurt and try to like look at the brighter side and look at the better things that I had going on in my life.
Absolutely. And before I pan back to Hell and let you go move on with this conversation, I'm glad that Trey brought up that point because we know the environment that you're in. It's so important. It's so vital, especially in college. We all away from home to a certain degree, however far it is, we're away from home. We're away from our loved ones. So we're creating new friendships with people we don't really know. And we're gaining bonds and we're forming trust through over time. Right. And I think it's important that we get to highlight and understand that the community aspect and just the whole unconditional love that I think men have for one another that we don't really speak on too much, which it bothers me. We're going to change that. That's the point of this podcast. We're going to change that. But it goes to show you that like Hale said, like he was helping me out. And when he got injured, I remember being able to try to help him out as much as I could. And then when I'm going through the same stuff, and this was around the same time, he's able to help me out mentally as well. Same thing with, and we're going to have I ain't going to spoil nothing, but same thing with Shay and same thing with Junior when we was living together, Hell, right? Like we was all able to lean on each other to get through some of the things that we're going through. And a lot of the things we related to one another. Like we always try to make things unique to us. But most of the time it's very baseline. Like we have the same common issues. It might sound a little different, be a little different here and there, but we have the same issues. Same thing with Trey. Remember we had that conversation on the couch that led to this podcast, right? Yeah. We went through once you started going in your conversation about what we was talking about on that couch, we went through the same exact thing, the same feelings. And so that's the whole aura of this is to understand that we could all help each other in certain type of ways, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, spiritual. Like those guys around me help me in so many different ways, and they have a way of going about it and their expertise, right? Go ahead, Hell.
Yeah. I would, for any former athlete or anything, I would say if you're just now hearing this, the most important thing I think you should do is you need to make peace about what happened as an athlete. All right. Mm-hmm. Whether you were an All-American, whether you won state, whether you were injured like me and didn't get the shot that you felt like you should have had or anything, just look back at all that and just make peace with it. All right. Just forgive yourself, forgive who you need to forgive, and be in that mindset that now it's time to move on. And the concept that all of us try to share and what we try to bring on each other is that we can't stop unfortunate things from happening, but what we can do is make every unfortunate thing turn out to be a positive. So while it sucks and it's bad that you may have gotten injured or maybe you didn't get your start or anything, you can still take a lot from that time and from those lessons and propel yourself forward to make that into a positive. I look back, It's actually funny, but right now I still have one more year eligibility.
I got
So going
I
in,
got
yeah,
two.
if I
I got
wanted
two.
to, I could go play football right now. Yeah, a lot of us do. But I look back at it now and I was like, you know what? For better or for worse, having those injuries was a very pivotal point in my life for the better. You know, it really helped me grow up as a person. It really helped me understand myself a lot more. And then everything that transpired after that. You know, I got hurt on my way to coming back, wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. COVID happens, still wasn't sure, but during that time, I still had 2, 3 more years of eligibility, so I could have made it work. I decided, let it go, graduate. Now I have a great job. You know, I have so many more possibilities and a different outlook on life than what I did when I was in that state 3 years ago. But all that came from me just getting injured. But more importantly, that came from after the injury. Instead of thinking life is over, I decided to be like, well, I gotta make something positive about this. I
Can
have
I?
to move on. I have to do something good with this. And then, yeah, go ahead, Jordan. What would you
Yeah,
like to say?
because you know, I'm very forgetful, so I want to get to this point because what you made me think of is, and I'll get into it when our last episode and elaborate more on it. But the key word in that, and when I was just having this conversation with my mom the other day, right? The key word that I'm hearing with you is the word acceptance, accepting things for what they were, accepting things for how they are, right? And I think that is a big part, especially for us that's kind of moving on with our lives. And it's hard when you tie your self-worth into what you've been doing, right? Especially something like sports. We talk a lot about sports because we were able to relate because we all play football, right? But
right.
anyone in life, when you tie your self-worth into, you know, because it's an innate thing, the more you work at something, the more you're going to care about it, right? Because that's the more you value that thing that you're always crafting, that energy, whatever the case may be. And I think acceptance is a huge part of protecting your peace because it is hard to break away from something that you've only known, right? And I think us not thinking or being able to conceptualize the idea of the grass being greener on the other side, I think that keeps us in bad situations or keeps us from wanting to try something different, or it keeps us on the like we kind of go back and forth and be fickle about if I want something different in life because I know what I know and I kind of want to stick here because I'm comfortable in it, right? Remember we talked about that all the time. And so I think that's an important thing is to be able to accept these things, right? And there's a lot of things that go into how to go about accepting things, but acceptance is a big part of protecting your peace, especially with knowing that some of these things are just experiences. Some people are just an experience. Like you're not supposed to hold on to everything in life. Like everything isn't supposed to be for forever. You know what I'm saying? Imagine everybody you met in life and
Was there all the
yeah,
time.
they was there. Your life would be overwhelming. How would you live that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I'll let you go with that a little bit, Trey.
And I agree with you and both of you guys, how we were talking about how we got all these years left to plan. I honestly, like me stopping playing and me realizing that it wasn't just like football wasn't everything and it was just like something to do and like a hobby. It really truly made me realize that like even now, if somebody told me you could come play right now and come play football, I don't think I would do it. I just I just think that like now in my life and just the things that I want to do, I don't even like football isn't even a thought half of the days. Like of course I enjoy watching football on Sundays. I enjoy watching my little brother play, and I might start coaching for him in the near future here. But I just think that like me playing football would put me in such a different mindset and had me thinking like it was be perfect or bust. And all this stress that I was putting on myself, it just wasn't healthy. And I feel like I'm in a better place now just because I don't have to worry about what somebody's thinking about me in football and letting a practice define how my whole mood was for the rest of that day or a game define how my mood was for that weekend and not being able to enjoy the good things in life. Because I feel like I missed out on a lot of good things in life and a lot of fun times with my friends just because I was so focused on football and that I let that determine what my mood was and how I was doing all of the time.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Hell.
Yeah, so let's have some fun here. I want to paint a scenario for you guys, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it, or kind of your advice. You know, on how you would move forward in a particular situation. And
Okay.
a little backstory on why I feel like we should do that is just that a lot of our audiences are obviously young, fresh out of college, things. And I feel like this scenario kind of fits a lot of people who not only are looking at our content, but in general are seeking for some sort of answer. So I
Right.
think it would be nice if we try something different like that, where I paint a little scenario and then we just hear each other's thoughts. Again, there's no wrong answer. There really isn't. It's more just, if you were in their shoes, how would you approach a certain situation or anything like that? So the scenario is this. Let's say you're a recent college grad, right? Young, you're staying with your parents. You have a degree, but you're not 100% sure if you want to move forward with it. You're not quite sure, you kind of just pick the degree to a point. So you have a degree, you're a recent college grad, you're at home with your parents, you're trying to just figure out life. You're trying to figure out where to go to there. So what would be your advice to that individual trying to find their peace, trying to find their purpose, trying to figure out what's going to work for them? Because, they still have the rest of their lives to work with. And I'll start first and then I can move on with Jordan. I think the most important thing for someone in that situation is, one, they have to be very self-aware of who they are as a person.
Right.
And the most effective way, in my opinion, to do that is you're going to have to be alone. You're going to have to be alone. You're going to have to be in the position where you're going to have to make your own decisions. And someone's not going to be there to tell you what to do, right? So with that being said, I would say you're in a very privileged spot with being at your parents' house. But with that, you have to make sure whatever job you end up choosing or going with, you're saving as much money as you can. You save as much money. I think everyone should have 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. I preach that. I think that's a very good starting point for anyone. If you don't know what that is, then let's just say $3,000 to $6,000. I feel like that's a great starting point for any young adult before they move out and go to an apartment, because if anything happens, that's a lot of cushion room that you can have to where you're not just hurrying up and moving back to your parents or anything, right? Especially with the economy today and stuff, right? So with that being said, I would go with that route. Do whatever you can to move out, but also be financially stable when you move out. So save as much money as you can while you're staying with your parents, right? And then once you get to your own place, that's where the fun begins, because you'll be on your own, you'll be alone. I would say start trying things, start developing hobbies, start going to things, don't feel like you're in a box. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, basically. Whoever you were in college is set to change. So don't be afraid to take that step to try to change as a person. If you want to read. If you want to work out, try to find something new. Try to find your niche. Try to find what's going to help you and what's going to be the right thing for you, not just what everyone else thinks and everyone else says, right? So moving out, reinventing yourself. And then the third point is that it's very important to figure out a purpose. I can't really tell you how to figure out your purpose. I think there's a lot of self-help. I think there's a lot of books. I think there's a lot of things that can kind of help you. But you are going to have to figure out a purpose at some point on what makes you go. What do you want to do with your life? What brings you true happiness, right? And then once you find that purpose, then the final step is it's time to work hard. Time to get down, put in the hours you need, time to have that work ethic. Don't be afraid to work harder type of mentality.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Those are the things. What's up?
I said I was definitely agreeing with you. I feel like going off of what you were saying, you definitely have to, like, once you out of that college life, you're like on your own now, you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with this degree? What should I do? All of my friends have like certain goals and certain things that they want, but like I personally don't know. So I feel like what you should do is just branch out and try different things. Ask your friends about like what they're doing in their lives, what they're doing for their jobs. Like, how did they get there? What are some of the steps that they've done to try to figure out what they want to do in life? And just by having those different experiences, then it'll help you be able to decide like, well, my friend's doing this, so that's what I want to do. And that's actually something that's happened to me now, is that while I was at work, I ran into one of my old football teammates who I played with in college, and we were catching up, and he was kind of telling me about what he was doing and like where he was working at, because we were working, because I work at Children's and he works at WashU, but like it's kind of a joint campus. So we ran into each other at Chick-fil-A. We were just catching up, and he was telling me about his job, and I was like, well, maybe I want to do that. Like maybe that's something that I haven't explored yet. Right. So why don't I try to do that and try to figure it out? And currently now that's what I'm in the middle of doing. And I feel like through the interviews and people that I talk to, like this is something that I want to do long term now.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off that, Hill, to answer your question in terms of like what advice I would give to somebody, this is Psychology 101. So y'all get Psych Jordan for like 1 minute, less than 1 minute. Alrighty, awesome. Go. All right. So our brains is hardwired to think very, very definitively about things, right? That's why we got fight or flight response, right? At some point, evolutionary psychology said, what? You know, the Homo sapien was in the jungle. I have to decide, and I have to make a quick decision. When I see a tiger, do I stay or do I go? And that's where our brain thinks. It thinks very black and white. And so it leaves no area for gray, or it leaves no room for gray area unless we change our thinking, which that's what we're talking about, changing our perspective, rewiring our brain on this podcast, right? The thing I will say to you, because all of y'all make good points, is when it comes to your purpose or whatever you're trying to do, or even if you don't think you know what you're trying to do, right? We talk about the 3 Ps, right? What are you passionate about? Is it something positive, right? Is it something productive? Does it bring about something for you, right? Those 3 Ps. And the thing that I think all of us have to do in terms of if you're trying to give somebody advice for anybody that's in a position where they're trying to figure their life out, is to not only make a plan, but search for a way of making things black and white. I love Kobe for the simple fact that he talks about non-negotiables, right? He's like, I set non-negotiables in my life to where I can't negotiate myself out of that, right? And I think I talked about this a couple episodes, is that trying to search for discipline in whatever your plan is, more so than motivation, because the fact of the matter is that your discipline is going to take you further than your motivation, right? We talk about that all the time, but just make everything black and white in terms of your decision making would be my piece of advice. Take out what you want to do and just kind of go for the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, discipline's very important with whatever you do. It doesn't matter what type of plan or however good it is, you got to have discipline. And I mean, with that in and of itself, it's very important that you don't have to have a foolproof plan. Like, I'm not saying you can go with the wind necessarily, but you don't have to have a very strategic point A, point B, point C. It doesn't always work like that, you know. Be willing to be free flowing to a degree. Be willing to adjust when you need to adjust. It's kind of like what Trey said. Trey's job, he had a particular path, and then with that conversation with the guy, with his old teammate at Chick-fil-A, you know, he realized, you know what, maybe I'm gonna diverge from my path and try this route here, you know, and
right.
There's nothing wrong with that, especially since we're young. We have a great opportunity as we're young to go out, try new things, figure out what works for us. We don't have to be confined to a particular career, to a particular job or anything. And I always like to add on to this is that not everyone's going to be a millionaire. Statistically, it's impossible. So I don't like to sell people dreams like that if you do this, you're going to be a millionaire or something like that, or it's so easy. No, it's not. It's not going to happen. And, you know, there's only a very small amount of people that can do it. And with that being said, I mean, there's just so many variables. There's so much that goes into it. Some people don't even have that opportunity from birth, just from where you were born at, where you live, you know? So I don't try to do that. I don't think everyone can be not everyone can be a millionaire, but what I can say is everyone is entitled to be financially stable is one. Everyone does have the opportunity and is able to be financially stable. And two, everyone has the right and has the ability to be emotionally stable. And inner peace is part of that, you know?
And I think with that though, I do want to. I'm glad you brought that up because it does jog my memory on what I do want to talk about, and I think we got to get this concept real quick.
Sure.
Emotional boundaries. I want to talk about emotional boundaries because that is so important. Thank you for segueing into that because that is the biggest part of protecting our peace is when you get that sort of peace that you're going for, right? Getting rid of your resentments, working through those things, working through forgiveness for yourself, working through your forgiveness for other people. Emotional boundaries is the next step, right? And I want to start off before I give y'all your question. In terms of emotional boundaries, I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit about where I struggled even a couple years ago and still kind of struggle with too to a certain extent. And so I want to say in 2020, on my first year in Quincy, I was kind of struggling with a lot of things, kind of with not only football, but just transitioning to a new school, yada yada, right? I was kind of just still breaking down a lot of things that was going on in my life. And at that point, um, I had somebody that was going through something, right? And it was kind of hard for me to understand and try to be there for that person for the simple fact that I wasn't able to give to myself. So I'm trying to, like you said, Hale earlier, is like I'm not in the space mentally to be able to give what I want to give or I feel like you need in terms of emotional support, in terms of advice, because I myself is drained or I myself is going through a lot of things, right? And so one of the hardest things I had to grasp was emotional boundaries and understanding that you do have a compassion meter. Like you can't just be compassionate all the time, just give, and you're gonna run out of stuff to give, right? You're gonna be drained, and you can't. I didn't want to change the essence of me being a giver, but I didn't have nothing to give, and then I was the one losing in the situation. So like I said, I had a friend that was going through some real life stuff, but I remember telling her like, look, I can't. At a certain point, I was like, I understand the support that you need, but I understand also that I'm not able to give it to you in a way I feel like you would need at this particular point. And I understand that our friendships and all of that was important. So, you always want to feel obligated to being there for your friend. But at that particular time, I felt like I would have did more damage than I would have done any help. And so setting that emotional boundary and understanding like you can't get into this certain, you can't just be too compassionate. You can't be over giving. You can't be to the point where you're always giving and it's taken away from you as well. So, you know what I'm saying? Because we have a responsibility to ourselves as well. So I would think that would be when we talk about emotional boundaries in terms of my testimony with it, is something that I struggle with. So when me speaking to that hill, when we talk about emotional boundaries, are there any stories that come to light about boundaries for you? And how does that talk about or how does that help in protecting your peace?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, definitely can't. It's a very personal story. So, definitely have to tread. Can't say any names or
Names, right?
particulars and stuff. So, bear with me if I feel a need to cut myself short or anything while I'm telling on this story. But, um, again, a lot of your emotional, let's just say, baggage that you can have most of the time it's going to come from someone that's close to you, whether it's a close
Right.
friend or a close family. It's just that's how proximity works. However you're around, you're eventually going to be affected by your environment and such. So, um, obviously, everyone has family problems. I'm not going to be the one to say that my situation is something supernatural. I never really talk like that. I'll never make it seem like it's just something otherworldly wrong. But what I will say is that it was emotionally damaging for me for a very long time, and it's something that I still make sure I check myself on. It's that, hey, at some point you really do have to make peace with the past, and I have to figure out what worked for me. Uh, yeah, I just have to figure out what worked for me, man. Is you can't just hate your family. That's one thing I will preach. You can't get to a point where you just hate your family. You're just gonna have to figure out what's gonna work for you in an alternative way. And I do love my family, but there are certain things that I realize I have to do to make sure that I still love my family. So I guess a good example is that um it's a lot more productive and it's a lot better for me if we don't live so close to each other, if we're not, in the same neighborhood or anything like that. And again, they're not bad people at all. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. You know what I mean? It's just their inner peace and my inner peace, or what works for me and what works for them, are different things, right?
Right.
And for a while, it consumed me because I had to deal with it. And I had a large family, as you know. So it's a lot of different emotions, a lot of different personalities in one house that can affect people, you know? So that was just one time for me where I just had to be like, you know, I can't just abandon these people. I have to make something work. So I have to make something work that works for me. And now I feel like we have an amazing relationship. You know, it's I still go see them for holidays. I go, you know, we talk on the phone, we text each other. There's no bad blood in my family, but the important part of why it's like that is because with me personally, I set certain boundaries and I put certain things in place to where it never goes overboard, you know? It, and that's important. And it's a tough reality. That's a tough thing for me to say, honestly. It's very tough, but that's just something that you have to be willing to do to make it work for you and to have your peace, you
Absolutely.
know?
So, and that goes to show you that that's emotional maturity with not only your family but friends. All these boundaries are important in all aspects of who you have a relationship with. So I'm gonna pan to you, Trey, real quickly. When we talk about boundaries, what is something that you struggle with in terms of like setting boundaries, whether it's emotional or anything, and how did you go about setting your boundaries, and how does it work for you?
I would definitely say that something I definitely struggle with is with the emotional boundary side of things. Is in relationships, I feel like in my past relationships, I would always be the person to like, oh, I'm okay, nothing bothers me. Like, always shake it off and be like, it's not worth it because the fighting that's going to come after it isn't worth like me just getting the point across or me just saying some little thing bothered me. And that was something
Right.
I really struggle with, I think, a lot. And for me to have that emotional maturity to be like, no, like this this thing is really bothering me and I want to talk about it and we need to figure this out because you're going to consistently do it because that person doesn't know that it's bothering me. And
Right.
it's those things will happen and then I would have a bad attitude towards that person and they would be completely ignorant to what caused it and like why I was acting this way. And that would even start a whole mess of other problems. And I think what helped me realize that is that one time when I actually did open my mouth and actually did talk about something that was really bothering me and something that I wanted to be fixed in our relationship, that thing got fixed. And then I realized, wow, just me opening my mouth and saying something changes everything. Like it's not as big of a deal as I think it would be. And that with me being able to talk about it and be able to communicate, I was able to advance our relationship in different areas that I never knew was possible.
And then you just set the boundary on just, not letting, certain things bleed into you, and not letting things affect you in terms of like changing the essence of who you are. Right. So to
Right.
wrap up what we talking with this episode and kind of what I want to elaborate on when it comes to boundaries is understanding that like how your boundaries affect somebody, or, what I'm saying, is a disservice to somebody. That's not your responsibility. Right. And we talking about protecting your peace, like you owe everything to yourself. So if something is draining you or something is bothering you, yeah, communication is a part of boundaries. When you're in a shared space with somebody, that is another part of setting boundaries, being able to communicate, seeing that things leak into you and being able to separate from that, or the acceptance piece of boundaries, accepting things for what they are or what they're not. Right. All those things make up boundaries, and boundaries are important. I think that's the biggest thing when we talk about protecting your peace. That is the biggest thing, is understanding what you want as a boundary and standing on them, especially emotional boundaries, because we don't want to give too much to where we are drained. When we look in the mirror, it's like, dang, I got nothing for myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel good, but everybody around me feel good. Like that's a terrible way of feeling. Like that's not living. That's just surviving. I wouldn't even say that's surviving. Like that's not thriving at all. Like that's just as it is very draining, and setting those emotional boundaries. And we can go into it maybe in a mini episodes about how to set emotional boundaries. I think it's important to bring up that boundaries are going to be the number one thing that I would say is the one thing that people should aim to setting for themselves, standing on them, and understanding that it will inconvenience some people, right? Because people only know you in this light, and they've only seen you in this light. So when you stand on something that is new for them, it's gonna be hard for them to adjust because they're like, man, I've been getting X, Y, and Z from them. Now I can't get into them as much as I used to. But at the same time, this is protecting your peace, and this is an I program. A lot of things we talking about the I, right? So it's not your responsibility to change your boundaries because it affects other people. And we can have another mini episode with that. But I want to wrap this episode up with the guilty pleasure question that I think my boy Hill wanted to get into. We can go with that.
Yeah. Oh, what's a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Yeah. What's a guilty pleasure?
So I have this thing. I actually do enjoy St. Louis barbecue. Just to put that out there. I know we get, we go back and forth on St. Louis things, but yeah, I do enjoy St. Louis barbecue. So what I do is every 2 weeks when I get paid, I treat myself to barbecue for dinner. So every 2 weeks, and I pretty much go to the same barbecue place. So they probably know me by name and I get the same thing too. But
right.
I go, yeah. So I literally leave work and like my coworkers know about it now too. So it's like I leave work and they're like, yep, he's about to go get some barbecue. It's like, yep, about to go ahead and get some barbecue. So I go to the same place, get to play music. I'm on the highway. I'm just having a great time and stuff. But man, I mean, that's inner peace right there, man. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's something that most people probably wouldn't even understand, but it's just a cool thing that I like to do, and I'm glad that I'm able to do it.
All right, Trey, quickly, guilty pleasure as we wrap this episode.
Guilty pleasure. If you know me, you can obviously tell this is my guilty pleasure. Is that every month I try to get a new pair of shoes. Every single month in, month
you
out.
Saying no? This is no November. No.
Yeah, it's not this. I'm not doing
the barbecue thing. Ain't sounding too bad now.
Oh yeah, no. Every month I'm like, man, let me go get these shoes real quick. I need these. Knowing I don't need them, knowing I have way too many shoes. I got more shoes than I could even wear in a month. I could wear one pair of shoes for a whole month, not switch up. And then it's like I still go get them. It's just, I don't know. It's just something about having that new shoe smell, just having the new kicks on your feet. You just, I don't know. Right. You feel like you can conquer the world sometimes. I know you can back me up on this.
No, yeah, bro. It feel like, it's so many shoes that I haven't touched. So that is definitely one of my guilty pleasures, but I'm going to give y'all another one. I'm be brief about it. Shoes is number one for me though. That's my thing. That's my baby. It's just about having them. I don't even wear. I wear my Yeezy slides and my Yeezy. We do not support Kanye on this before. I love the concept of the Yeezy slides and what's name. I love the concept of the shoes. Right. I'm not getting into any Kanye dissertations or dialogue right now. I'm talking about particularly the shoes. Anyway, my second guilty pleasure as we wrap this up is, let me think on this outside of shoes. Free time. Y'all know I don't ever give myself free time. Like I'm always busy. So free time to relax. That's my guilty pleasure. I wouldn't even say it's a guilty pleasure because you really need it, but your Jordan lacks in that area. So we'll fix that though. But with that being said, great episode. Make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And this has been a good episode.
Everybody keep tapping in with us, keep listening, telling your friends, trying to spread our message. Really appreciate everybody.
Anything, Hell?
Yep.
Anything with you, Hell?
Just throwing it out there. Instagram @_Men the podcast. We've been getting a lot of love from there. A lot of people been supporting. Keep it up. It's great. TikTok, Men the podcast. All one word, all lowercase. And then our YouTube channel is just Men the podcast. It's all pretty straightforward.
All righty. Well, with that being said,
it's free.
Absolutely. Support is free. Support your homies, support your friends, support everybody in life that's trying to go for something. And we trying to do the same thing here on this podcast. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in.
Oh, I'm gonna go for it. So let me tell you about what this boy Hill just did. So I go upstairs. He's like, bro, can you give me a charger? I'm like, yeah, I got you, bro. So I go upstairs, go grab him a charger. And then I come back and tell me why I hand him the charger. I was like, yeah, he was like, how do you know it's on? And it's one of them little plate ones that you just set your phone on top of, like a little pad.
Right.
He like, bro, do you gotta like turn it on or like how you know it's on? And I'm sitting here like, bro, just put your phone on it. And he gonna say something. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I had the pad upside down. I was thinking the bigger part was supposed to go on the bottom. I'm like, bro.